Spiral, 2 Jews, 2 mics, 2 hours, starting now.
Josh, you're in charge.
I'm in charge? Oh, shit. Well, welcome to the show, James ADOMIAN.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you making it a thing.
Yeah.
What'd you say? Make it a thing?
Making it a thing. I appreciate you making it a thing.
Absolutely. You had enough mojo with us to break our no guest policy.
Plus, I was going through a whole thing with how am I going to pitch this to Josh? Is he going? And he goes, yeah, James ADOMIAN. This is what I'm going to tell you. Your comedy cred or street cred or comedy street cred is off the charts.
If that was the currency that the dystopian would run on, street cred, we'd be okay.
I love the name of your special, by the way, because it
say it now. Now you can plug it.
Yeah, the path of much resistance, right?
Most
resistance, and that I think you got that from me. I think. Well, first of all,
he thinks you got everything from him.
Yes, I told Josh.
James.
I told Josh. I mean, great, really close to what I do, but not exactly it. No,
sound like an Andy Kindler riff. What am I on the path of most resistance?
Oh my God!
Unto?
That was my favorite thing in the Albert Brooks doc was when he's talking to his agent saying, "You're taking the hard road." He thinks I see 2 roads.
I'm sorry, James, that you had to endure somebody else doing an impression.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Josh is very good at impressions.
It's not going to be like a dueling banjos thing. I assure you.
Josh claims he's better at impressions than you. And well, first of all, I want to say that James
Andy is the Don King of podcasts.
Yes, he is.
Sets up these mega fights.
Well, I remember years ago when I first met James ADOMIAN, and it was his tribute to Rich Little. He had an hour-and-a-half show, and it was he loved Rich Little. I don't know why you loved him so much.
Remember the great hits and the big laughs the family would have with Rich Little?
Carol Channing and Nixon? Come on!
I want to start off by saying I loved your special. I sent you a text. But when you send a text saying how much you love something, a lot of people go, "Oh, it's just a text." I loved it from the beginning to the end. And the only suggestion I have is, do you know who Francis Tiafoe is?
I don't think I do.
Famous tennis player. He brings 20 changes of shirts. He changes during the actual performance. That's what I was hoping you would do that. Although I did enjoy seeing everything spread.
This is my first special, and I thought they were like, "Get a dark shirt," and I was like, I had approved wardrobe, right? And I was like, "Oh, right." And then the darkest shirt I had was a charcoal shirt, not dark enough. And there was, I was on Jimmy Kimmel this last week, and I said there was a heated discussion backstage about this, and he goes, "Yeah, it looks like it was a very heated discussion."
You know, I like Jimmy Kimmel now. Years ago when we would talk about Jimmy Kimmel, I was anti-Jimmy Kimmel. Now I'm pro-Jimmy Kimmel, politically, socially, philosophically, and comedically.
You're like in politics, you would be like an obscure French Socialist Party that's like, "We've split off from the French Socialist Party. We disagree with their platform on transportation. And then years later, we have forgiven these transgressions."
You know what's so great about you, James? And I want to say this to you from my heart to your gut. If you came on, I would prefer, and every time I do a show with you, I go, "Oh, is he going to go with?" If you don't go into me, if you don't start doing me, I leave the room. But the thing is, you
walked out of Carnegie Hall. He walked out of Carnegie Hall because I didn't do an impression of him.
Look, it was a good show, but what's in it for me? And the thing is that from the very first time I saw you, you could say, obviously, you've developed in such an amazing way. But even back then when you were mostly doing impressions, you still were hilarious. And now that it's not like you consciously said, "I have to mold them into my act." But the voices that you did, oh, by the way, I and my wife think that you look like Errol Flynn.
That's good.
Have you heard that before?
I was thinking more Seth Rogen, but whatever.
It's literally, that's the two I get the most. I mean, when I'm skinny, it's Errol Flynn, and when I'm heavier, it's Seth Rogen, or if I have the glasses and the beard, but I sure, Errol Flynn, great, no problem. But I can't live up to him with his Nazi sympathy.
Is that true? Oh, come on. Errol Flynn was like, the guy who,
there's such a thing as too much baggage, James. There's such a thing.
I also love.
We got to separate the art from the artist, though.
That's right.
I was wondering, I never heard anybody do, I didn't even know, because I'm so regularly sized, 32, 29. I didn't even know, because I have such a great physique. I didn't know that Lucky Brand, it was a special brand that helps people who don't fit into because you said people at the Banana Republic, well, get him out.
Get him out. Heavy. Get him out of here. Throw fabric at him. But, no, the Lucky Brand jeans it's not branded that way. That's just me. That's just me reading into their business model. That you go in and everything is a size 36. Generous.
Yes. And in fact, at my biggest, I would claim to be 36, but I might have been 38 or 40 at the time.
Right. That happens. The false sizing. And I think that that's their business model at Lucky Brand jeans. False size. That would be a good name for a clothing company. False size jeans.
Well, they've done it for women for years with the sizing, but
right.
It's time men's vanity caught up.
Yes, they learned the vanity was there.
You mean people say that women are
both the vanity and the doughiness are both there for them to capitalize.
And people say that a woman complains so much. They go, "Oh, there's no sizes for me." They start at size 0. Isn't that a nice size? I'm doing material that only people who know what women's sizes are.
That's right.
Yeah, there could be
from your schmata set.
How about a guy like a comic who's pacing the stage in leather, going like, "I don't think you should be able to get any clothes unless you know size everything in complex mathematical formulas."
There's not enough people do. You did.
Size the square root of 11.
You started a movement with your fabric material and your textile material. I hope it branches out.
We have textiles. We're going to move on to decorative blankets. Sash.
Josh, do you agree with me? No, I am always like, to me, I saw Gary Goldman's special a few months ago. I loved it. And all the following weeks, Gary Goldman is the king. He's the king. You are the king. I am not going to stop talking about this special. And it's almost ridiculous how much it's not like I'm even oversaying it. I just loved it from the beginning to the end. And now I currently think it's the best special I've ever seen. That's what I think.
Thank you, Andy. I treasure your opinion. You're one of the heroes I have coming up.
Oh God, that hurts me to hear.
Josh, say something about Josh.
That just hurts to hear.
Josh.
No,
just
I don't need that. I don't need that.
And Josh, Mystery Science Theater 3000. Just say.
But Andy, when you do say that, it sounds like it does. Say, I'm like, I can't handle compliments like this. So it sounds like to me like an infomercial where somebody's like, "Now, truly, this is one of the greatest scientific breakthroughs in all of history."
Well, I love the special too. I'll try not to be as superficial about my praise.
I know. See, you're a tougher get.
No, I really did love the special. I watched all of it except for the part where about Americans not caring about the Armenian plight. I fast forwarded through that.
Yeah, but, I mean, what is it with you? What is it with you?
No, it was great. I love that. I love your willingness to commit to the paragraph.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What does that mean? My partner's lost me now.
I just mean your stand-up it's in the best possible way written.
Yes, that's true. I wish I had some kind of skill like that. To repeat the joke similarly as you repeated it last time.
I do it. I don't write it properly on a device, or I don't write it on the page. I write on stage, but then I rewrite it every time I perform, basically.
Well, and there was a couple of bits where as a comic, I'm feeling like, okay, you could see how that one just got couplet added, couplet, with each set.
Right.
Know?
Well,
there's some where you clearly had a pretty fully formed thing.
As long as we're here, we need to go for Triceratops. There's no way to avoid it.
So good. It's just so good. And I don't say that just because of my experience in the gay. Oh, I go to one gay bathhouse in the 80s. I have a 7-year affair with a man in the 90s. I start a gay action committee and now I'm gay all of a sudden. Now I'm gay.
Suddenly that makes me gay.
That suddenly makes me.
Andy,
how about, yeah.
I also like that you had both the old gay writer and the old gay actor character.
That is a good point. That is a very good point. I'm just covering my bases in case, depending on which way the wave breaks.
Right.
You know, you reminded me a little of David Sedaris. I love David Sedaris, but he's become one of those people who says, I'm not queer. I'm not queer. Why the kids today are queer. I'm just gay. And it does seem like he's a little bit, you know, he's not with it.
You're not with it. You see this thing with sometimes, I don't want to say older gays. I just think it's any generation of people aging into another generation, into the time of another generation where they're like, I'm not about, and believe me, I'm about to do this. I'm about to make my heel turn into a right wing, middle-aged gay. But this thing where it's like, I don't like the way they're doing it. I'm going to make a big deal about. Like most of these guys, all they needed to do was just shut up and stop anything. And then it's like, oh no, here's my opinion on this LGBTQ. How many letters do we need? You know, why do I have to hear that every time somebody gets like a right-wing gay bug?
Yeah, what is it? It's well, there's a lot of different things. Like I'm not bitter because I never had something to be bitter about, right? But these guys are bitter, right? They're bitter, they're upset, and they focus it on the oddest things. They're just looking for, oh, when I said I was gay, I didn't do a song and dance, and you know. Like,
well, the other thing to me is that humorists age much worse than comics.
How do you separate the humorist?
Yeah, well, like your Dave Barry, your PJ O'Rourke,
PJ O'Rourke.
You know, your as you were just saying, what's the guy you just mentioned, who Sedaris. Sedaris is another humorist who is sort of aging out of their humor. You know,
or Andy Borowitz.
Andy Borowitz.
He is the go-to. He's like the Rick Roll of. Is that what it's called? Rick Roll?
Yeah, but you think it's an Onion article and Borowitz report.
He is like the Bard of First Thought Theater.
And he's so into it. He's so like, I love the kind of comedy like, well, don't get too relaxed, left wing. I'm coming after you. That comedy was never, even when Johnny Carson said you can't go against either side, he was wrong then. And it was also obvious that he was progressive, fairly progressive, Johnny. But the whole idea that both sides.
Or his staff was.
Or his staff. But the idea that there's both sides is just so ridiculous. It's like the pro-Hitler and the anti-Hitler. I don't know. I'm somewhere in the middle.
We take equal shots at both sides here during the secession crisis of the 1860s.
Even though there isn't, we specifically, even when there aren't two sides to the issue, we bend over backwards to allow the other side.
This happens in many arenas. This happens in many arenas. I see this over and over again. This was a big deal as you pointed out, Josh, in the recent events vis-a-vis Armenia. The news coverage of it was like, well, both sides have stayed in clashes. And you're like, okay, but one side is 30 times larger than the other.
Right.
You got to keep that as like, there's so many things like that where a false equivalency, I guess is what you call it.
So do you hang out with the card? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Over. I said, did you hang around with the Kardashians? It was just a cheap thing. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, they had to approve the special.
Right. And the special is out on YouTube this week, right?
This week, yes. As of September 19th, it's streaming on YouTube. It's also available on 800-Pound Gorilla for those who want to make donations. Alms for the poor.
Yes. I like 800 Pound. I was saying on our text that I did my album with them and liked those guys.
Yeah, so far I've had a great time with them. They rescued my stand-up album from 2012, which had disappeared due to link rot. And
what?
Link rot is the phenomenon when in the internet age, things get lost because the server goes down, or some company buys a company and deliberately destroys all the archives and stuff. So it's actually a very interesting phenomenon where things in the internet age, but from 10 or 20 years ago, are disappearing faster than paper records from 100 years ago.
Wow. We were all so sure it was for forever, though.
So, I mean, my eyes have opened to this a lot in the last.
Don't worry, Andy. Your Twitter is safe.
I still like it. Okay.
You got to find the stuff that you treasure the most. You know, when you meditate and you think of, as you're not supposed to, you start thinking of things while you're meditating. All your favorite comedy things that pop into your head, you got to, make sure that they exist in a way that won't disappear. But 800 Pound Gorilla rescued my album, and they re-released it on their website. And
that must be great, though, right? It's fantastic.
Yes. And so I was really happy with how that went. And so I was like, all right, I want to do a stand-up special anyway, so happy to do it with them.
How are you going to deal with this? I'm telling you, this is the best special I've ever seen. How are you going to deal with the explosion of offers? And Andy, what are you going to do? You're going to change. You're not going to be the James Adomian I started with.
Andy is an easy audience to win over. Do you think you think he doesn't like anything? But all you have to do is have a dead end bit that goes for 4 minutes about Substack. And you get Andy Kindler's.
And if you do it as Andy, he'll move in.
Where's the other stacks?
You know what, James? I swear to God.
I prefer a hero stack.
That's really good.
My wife, sub. What's the opposite of a sub?
Dom?
My wife and I go around. I do this all the time, not just leading up to this, but all the time I go, I stayed at the Westin because there was no more room at the Easton. What's the matter? You don't like my cardinal directions humor?
I think that was the first time I got an audience with Kindler to do the Kindler.
And you know the story. I've said it before, but I don't think it's ever been on. People could hear it like this. That Dan Mintz came down to see my State of the Industry speech without his glasses. And He thought that I had turned. It was no question. He goes, "This is the hackiest crap I've ever heard." Hold the Francophone. And
yes. That was one of the lines. Hold the Francophone.
Oh man.
So this was a few years ago when you were like hardcore going into several famous comedians, as was the nature of the roast every year. And so I don't know if you've seen it. So there was this. I just, instead of Louis C.K., I started jumping into like more famous and like bygone comedians.
Yes.
I was like, hey, Buster Keaton, why don't you turn the train around?
The thing that bothers me is that I would use every one of those jokes without, those are my jokes. You can't get better than the Weston Easton. Now, I wanted to bring up something with you, James, only if you want us to, is the experience of Louis C.K. coming down to the year I made fun of him, and before people found out he was one of the worst human beings in the world.
We were on the same show, all of us.
Right. Did I ever tell you about that?
Well, I was there. What did he said something. Okay. You guys had a moment, I know.
Now if you look at Louis C.K. and how manipulative he is and how he's been doing this sexual thing forever, he came down to intimidate me. There's no question about it.
As the drop-in on the show?
Wasn't even the drop on the show. But here's the best part. I go, you got to see James. I said, you have to see James Adomian. He does a fantastic routine. And you did an impression of him, and he looked stone-faced. So I couldn't figure out if he was sweeping you into his negative feelings about other people, or he's one of those guys who doesn't want to hear an impression because it was too close to the bone, even though it was hilarious.
I think he came up without laughing afterwards and was like, that was a good impression. You did a good impression of me.
That's it.
I think he said like that was. I think he was kind of like one of these guys. I think he was like, there was a good impression of me. Your Kindler was really good. Maybe it was the two of you trying to steer me in as like a large cannon to fire at the other one.
That's right.
But he came down there. He was very rude. Like he's talking in the background. One of the local comics from Toronto said something. He goes, shh. I'm just saying that Louis I know you think he was the greatest person for always. I think he had character flaws way before this thing started.
And you were leading in on everything. You were going in on like how crediting himself for all the different roles and all the different departments, editor,
yes,
screenplay.
Yes.
This was way before the actual serious allegations came out.
Yeah, because he was
on the beat.
He was tweeting things. He would tweet things. He goes, I'm looking for I'm just looking for a Newman, I can't even think of it. Some kind of obscure thing because he has to know that he tells everybody, I hired a plane for that scene. I hired a this for that. I mean, he was so great. He was so almost awful, but great at pretending to not be an egomaniac.
It's a team of people. I have a fantastic team. It's all me, but it's a great team.
Right.
I don't want to turn this into a anti-Louis C.K. thing unless we vote on it.
You don't want to litigate?
I don't want to litigate this.
Past beef?
Some people like when people expose themselves. There's two sides to it, to that issue of exposing.
When do we get to see you take the bench over from Judith Scheinlin, and we need Judge Andy as like the daytime court judge?
We did that. We actually did a show called Kids Court where Andy was the judge.
That's right.
I was the puppet bailiff.
Holy shit. Been done. The Greeks have done all.
Yes. And it was actually, in my opinion, the best televised use of Andy ever, really.
And because he was without Josh, it wouldn't have been possible because he was the bailiff as a puppet. And, but here's the thing. Remember that, Josh, you have to remember this, that I said to this person, they used their elbow to make it look like a butt so
this young girl, the case was this girl stole her brother's phone, shot at like her elbow, like her folded elbow to make it look like it was ass cheeks. And then denied she did it. And so, yes. and this was like an 8-year-old girl or something. And Andy, like, basically just tricked her into confessing on the chair. Like, he was like,
elbow?
So when you did the elbow thing, she was like, no, it was this one. And she's, and he was like so excited that he had fooled an 8-year-old girl that he had just hammered this 8-year-old girl.
Your Columbo routine worked at
Yes.
an age differential of like 40 years.
Just one more thing.
Don't do impressions in front of him. He gets very mad. James used to get so mad when I would do my Bert Convy.
It was, but please understand, I don't do an impression of you, Andy. Mine is derisive mocking.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yes.
He's echoing back the pain.
Like he says I'm whiny. Is that true? You always say I'm whiny.
Oh, I say I'm whiny.
Yeah, so it takes him a minute to get to the bits.
There's what's wrong. I think there's different. There's what there's a who's it? There's this, and then there's.
Hey, Andy, do you think it's hacky for people? I'm starting to get annoyed at this when I'm just putting a finger on it. When people go like, hey, here's how you get into a Trump impression. And they do it for you on camera.
Oh, that's so terrible.
Oh, here's how well, first of all, you got to put your hands here.
Have you seen the 8-year-old kid?
You got it, the voice down here, and then they do it step by step. Did Rich Little used to do that?
No, he tried to preserve the image that it was magic. Rich Little.
Right.
But that was the thing about anyone who ever went on Carson. Carson would always try the impression himself.
Right.
Right. He would always like give it a go. So that's why I think Albert Brooks did his bit with the, you put your ice in the mouth. That whole.
It's Albert Brooks who did it originally.
He's the one who did the meta version of explaining
how you do the impression.
Yes.
Interesting.
Wow. Did you see the 12-year-old?
But the biggest trap for impressionists, it seems to me, is those interviews where people just want to scroll through your impressions. Like I see Matt Friend doing that all the time now. It's like, now I'm Trump. No, I'm Mitch McConnell. It's just like
they've always I say they, meaning the New World Order.
Right.
Like the various people have over the years tried to get me to be more of a classic impressionist.
Right.
And the one of the guys on Last Comic Standing, I forgot his name. He's kind of a disreputable comedy manager.
Barry Katz.
Thank you. You got a little lilt in your seat there for a second. He was trying to force me to do what I considered hacky impressions. Like, he was like, you're up here doing Gary Busey and you're doing these guys.
Where's Walken?
He was like, you need to do Christopher Walken. You need to do your Robert De Niro. And I'm like, I didn't say this back to him, but I was like, no, that's what everyone does. I am here to do something different.
Right.
And the impressionists get sucked in very quickly into doing the same guys. And there's like this very small pantheon of 12 people that you're supposed to do impressions of.
Well, and I think part of that is that most people learn their impressions from other people's impressions.
Right. And so I never wanted to do any of that.
Yeah.
So then I'm like lived in the obscure land where I'm trying to go on stage and be like, hey, you guys catch up? You guys keeping up with Slavoj Žižek and everything he's been doing lately?
Well, it wasn't until your special that I caught on that Alex Jones is doing Kinnison.
Yeah, I think, the way like, sometimes they say an older man will dress the way he used to think he was hot back in his young days. I think Alex Jones is stuck in the 80s comedy days. I think here's how you do your Alex Jones. You get a Sam Kinison and you put in a little Bill Hicks. I think he is stuck in like the tempo and the tone of like bad boy outlaw comedy from the 80s, but he's just not a funny person.
Have you heard that young right-wing guy? I don't even know if he's a right-wing guy, but he got popular doing sports things, and then he's all of a sudden doing political. I think he's like sponsored by the GOP.
You're not talking about Frank Caliendo, are you?
No. This is a young kid. This is a kid like he's 30, and he was doing sports stuff, but he's just. But here's the thing: impressions without a point of view, to me, I mean, they're great, but the idea that who's the guy who did Ed Sullivan first of all, he was actually making comments. Louis B. Jordan, that's
Will Jordan.
Yeah, he was making the impression was to mock Sullivan. You know
and
what
that's
I mean?
why no one remembers his name.
Right.
It works so much better to do it the way that I'm criticizing, to be the guy that has a run of 5 to 12 impressions that they do over and over again, and it's the same ones. This is the great struggle, Andy. This is the great struggle of the mimics, the perennial struggle of the mimicry.
Do you find this is what I find when I'm doing voices is that my brain kind of changes. Like I can come up with jokes for the character as the character that I couldn't have come up with outside the character.
Yes, exactly. That's a good way to put it. I think of it not in like a multiple personality disorder sense, but like I think to some degree in our day-to-day life, you settle into a version of what you're capable of that you always do.
Uh-huh.
And when we're storytellers or writers or actors or doing an impression, there's other parts of our the personas that are available to us, that we can do. And it comes out in storytelling. If you're reading a story to a kid or if you're acting on set, and especially in comedy, and there, like you said, there are jokes that I will think of that I would never have thought of if I wasn't doing the voice.
Right.
Where you're like, if you've given yourself the math problem of, I have to solve this problem as this guy, you'll come up with the solution as that guy.
Right.
But the other part of it is that, James, and I don't want to pump you. Your ego is so huge. I don't want to pump you up long, but you, like you're Bernie Sanders, you are the definitive. I'm making myself sick with the compliments now.
Look.
Come here.
Too long.
The 8%. Didn't you do that in front of Bernie?
Yes, I did. He didn't like it.
I could tell he didn't like it.
His wife liked it.
He tried to chime in. No, you're wrong about that amount. Why would he not like it?
There's a certain point where if you're a senator, your ego is still the biggest part of you.
Yes.
This is the great thing. Even someone who is doing something selfless on a grand scale for the benefit of the people, you realize that he's cast himself at the center of that opera.
Absolutely.
Look, we have to come together conveniently around where I am.
There's just, there has to be a reason why these people don't go, fuck these people. And it's because it's that great to be a senator to them. You know?
Yeah. That makes sense. Oh, I saw this 12-year-old kid in line. I forgot to say this. He's the funniest thing I've ever seen. He does a decent Trump, but he just goes like this with his hands after every line. And he's like 12 years old. And it's like, you just could tell that this guy is such a maniac nut that he's gotten into the psyche of America. You know what I mean? The kids, the rhythm, nobody's going to ever forget Donald Trump in a terrible way. I'm sorry.
Right. All these kids, he's going to be like that Nixon was to us.
Yeah.
I'm born after Nixon's presidency, but everyone was only talking about Nixon for until to this day. I'm 44 now. There's still people have not stopped talking about Nixon. It's going to be like that with Trump.
Yeah.
You know, Richard,
blow it up.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
We're going to blow it up. We're going to be very good. We've got a big dance. The middle school dance is coming up. A lot of people don't know this. Middle school dance is for kids only.
Do you know who Richard M. Dixon was? I know Josh does know who he was.
A name alike?
No, Richard M. Dixon, he was famous for his Nixon, but that's all he did was Nixon. And he had like a place on the island. And he was kind of popular. I mean, he wasn't popular to, I can't think of one other guy. Who's the guy who did all the political? David Fry.
David Fry, thank you. And then before that, there was Vaughn Meader.
Vaughn Meader, who only had the one thing. And that wasn't even him. He didn't even write the First Family stuff. He just did Kennedy on it. Vaughn Meader.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
There was every time I did, because, early on when I was doing George W. Bush, I was getting invited to a lot of sort of like left-wing protests to perform and things like that. Uh-huh. I learned they're quickly like, hey, how can we take you out of the environment where this is known to be funny and put it outdoors with a bunch of angry people, angry hippies from the 60s. But like, I would do these events and stuff, and over and over and over again, like every time I did some kind of political event, there would always be more than one old liberal, like old LA Volvo liberal, that would come up and be like, you really need to hear the comedy album by someone you wouldn't know named Vaughn Meader. And I could even tell that they were going to say Vaughn Meader before they did, but it was always like, no, you wouldn't know who this guy is. But since they were old, I was never able to interrupt politely and be like, yeah, I know who you're talking about. You had to listen to the entire story from each old guy.
Right.
There was really nothing funnier than Vaughn Meader at the time.
And then this famous Lenny Bruce line, that was the first thing he said after Kennedy got shot.
Poor Vaughn Meader.
Poor Vaughn Meader, yeah. Which I would have done that line because I'm edgy.
Right. Yeah, it's a good thing. Look, he would have been canceled today. You couldn't have Lenny Bruce today.
You can't do Vaughn Meader jokes today.
You can't do it.
The Vaughn Meader is at a historic low. Dialed back to a historic low. Yeah, impressions are a dangerous thing because they want you to be hacky with them. And then you're always you're like, what can I do that no one else will try to take from me for just like 2 years? What can I have for like 2 years that no one will take from me? And you have at best like a 2-year run before someone else either accidentally or deliberately takes it from you.
I was doing, on our own show, Andy was accusing me of stealing Huell Hauser from you.
Well, that's the thing. It's like there's a nuclear half-life. Other people are going to find Huell Hauser after a certain period of time.
Well, I always added him to, this is an actual story with my wife and I took mushrooms and we were freaking out and it was horrible. We did mushrooms indoors and the only thing that relaxed us was Huell Hauser. So I was doing Huell Hauser. No. So this is where you make the that's fantastic. I know Josh does it better though. I'm sorry.
I won't even try.
I'm cowed.
You can put, I've said this before, you can put on Huell Hauser if someone has died. If you don't know what else to do, if there's a traumatic event, you can put on Huell Hauser. He's been gone for so long, but he's just there as this timeless voice like, wow, look at all this honeysuckle. You're like, why is he so amazed by the honeysuckle?
I wish you could do Tom Leykis more. But I wish people knew him more because those were that was my favorite time period when Tom Leykis was an asshole on the radio.
Tom Leykis, he's done. He's still alive, but that's all you can say for him.
Isn't he in some small market still?
He might be in some small markets. He has no presence. And I say this as someone who has no online presence to speak of. I've got very, very much fewer followers than people think is normal in society. But Leykis has the last time I was on Twitter and checked, maybe a couple of years ago, he had something like 2,000 followers. And you're like, Tom Leykis should have more than that. Having been on Twitter for 15 years.
Even if he doesn't post, you'd think people would just passively follow him.
And his profile said, I block trolls. If you're a troll, you will be blocked. And you're like, well, that's the billboard outside of your store. You know business is not good.
Right.
If you make fun of me, you're gone.
Yeah, that's the first thing you should know about me.
And the implication that if you're here, you're probably here to make fun of me.
You're probably a troll, yes. But I saw him, I'm pretty sure I saw him once at LAX. But the problem was, I was not 100% sure it was him. I was like 93% sure it was Tom Leykis. Because, people look a little different in person. And
you flashed your tits anyway.
Yes, thank you, Flash Friday from Josh Weinstein in Temecula, your old tub,
So you didn't approach him. You didn't approach him.
I just stood there looking at him, and then he noticed and he looked back at me. And I should have said something because in hindsight, I was like, that was Tom Leykis. Of course he didn't have someone picking him up. Of course he was standing outside American Airlines like a jackass like I was. Do you care? Little American advantage. Do you care?
Oh, by the way, while you're saying that, I love your gold, your airline bit about how, and I was at Advantage Gold and thought I was a big shot, but now you have proven that gold is the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, nowadays gold is the lowest rank. Gold is the lowest ranking on all the airline categories. Gold will board last with the luggage.
They spent all those years trying to lower our self-esteem, and now they're just trying to puff it up again.
Right. We've got to manage. We're managing the esteem of 20
million. It got
million.
so bad that people are acting up on planes. Let's dial it back.
Make them think they're getting a break again.
That's right.
Well, I texted James. There's a true story. I was on an airline once.
So far, I believe it. I
was on airline, and I was talking to a guy, and he was like a comic or whatever, and he was a positive thinking guy. So I was telling him about Montreal, and I swear to God, he goes, "Oh well, I hope I know I'll be able to go up there one day." Cause
he corrected himself.
So at one point, he said to me, he said, "Do you have gold?" I thought he said, "Do you have gold?" I said, "Yeah, I'm Advantage Gold. Very proud." And he had actually asked me, "Do you have goals?"
And to clarify, you did not.
Right.
And you went back to, yes, my goal is to become platinum, Stan.
Yeah, because back in those days, when I became $1 million, what was the movie with Up in the Air or something where it was all about
Air Force One?
I can't remember one scene from that Clooney. What is that movie called? I can't remember one scene from it.
He's up in the air.
He's up in the air and he got 1 million miles and Sam, who's the guy? Sam used to be a lifeguard. Sam Elliott.
Why did you go into this story?
And who's this guy? And okay. And who's that guy?
I'm a cowboy of the sky here. I heard you're a frequent flyer.
God, everyone does Sam Elliott. God.
Oh, please, James, please. I told him you weren't going to. But James.
It's true. It's true. You think that you've claimed something, and then you're like, oh, wait, some guy did it on the radio 30 years ago.
Right, when Mask came out.
I still say, James, that the setup of we're going to a very cool buffet in heaven. We're at a buffet in heaven now. And you never know, and you never have to write anything beyond like, "Do you want more mashed potatoes, dear?"
Oh, I should. You know what? If Vegas offers me enough, I will do that. I will develop that kind of act. I will do the Vegas like cash out. I'm ready. Take me to heaven. Here's like 10 years of a swan song. I will do the Vegas act. I will do a buffet in heaven of all the great figures of the Bush and Trump administrations and beyond. You can see the poster falling apart as they put it up.
He is Casper Weinberger.
Why did those impressions die with Mark Russell?
That's right.
Why was he the last one to attempt to Casper Weinberger?
When I used to go to Vegas.
That's the deficit. Mark
Russell. When I went to Vegas and I used to hang around, Steve Sharippa was the entertainment director, and he would give me all of these 8x10s that came in. And one guy was an Al B. Shore impersonator.
Wow.
Yeah. And how would you know what Al B. Shore sounded like that you would know was an impression of?
Were people old enough to appreciate this?
Oh, no. This was back in the 80s.
Oh, I see.
God, I have terrible stories. Terrible anecdotes.
One time I was in Washington, D.C.
I'll be sure to have you tell that one again.
Whoa. I was in D.C. and I was in this bar, restaurant, dinner club, and walked past these closed doors, and you heard the music, and it said the Mark Russell Showroom. And I was like, oh, wow. And I went to open the door, and they were like, sir, it's sold out weeks in advance. And I was like, well, okay, well then of course I'm not going to, I would have wandered in, but absolutely I'm not going to go in now. I missed my chance in my lifetime to see Mark Russell live.
He played, this is what people say about hack people. He was actually a classical pianist before he started this thing.
You say that about a stand-up too?
Yeah, he's a classical pianist. And he was actually very good at the piano.
No, but Andy will tell you how he used to play violin.
Yes.
Did you play like the third man, like next to people eating soup in like a restaurant?
No, it's such a sad story because I hated the violin. My parents claimed I wanted to play it. And now when I looked at the Emmys last night and I see a woman doing vibrato, I just got sick to my stomach. That's how much I hate the violin now.
Wow.
And because if you're an egomaniac or a self-absorbed person like me and doesn't want to practice, you're not going to be the concert master. So I'm not going to be some guy in row 9 going, boo.
I see. You didn't want to blend in to the back.
Blending in. No, I wanted to be Bernstein or nothing.
He doesn't even have team player under special skills on his resume.
Andy, you are fantastically castable as a maestro conductor. That should be your next run. That you should get into Esa-Pekka Salonen impersonating.
Well, didn't Bradley Cooper? He shut the door on any future things.
No,
here's Bradley Cooper.
He didn't do anything well enough to claim it. I'm sorry to say so bluntly.
Well, Josh saw it and he didn't like it either.
You could roll right over it, in my opinion. You could do what SNL does to me and just pretend that it didn't exist and go do your own thing.
Wait, you auditioned for Saturday Night Live?
Oh yes, like 20 years ago. I just mean if you're like, oh, I've got this great impression going, it's fantastic. SNL will come out 2 months later
and steal it.
Not a good. They'll either if they've seen it, they'll steal it. But if they haven't, they'll just stumble into a lesser version. They'll be after you and not as good, and then they
But
have
it'll
an
still
arrangement.
supersede your version because it's SNL. Yeah.
Because they pay their publicists far more than they pay their writers and actors. So, like the publishers should get the Emmy on that show. Because on Sunday morning, if the show doesn't happen Saturday night, the show happens Sunday morning when they're sending out the press releases. Did you see this fantastic impression?
All right. Yes, it's really just a clip factory now.
Who were you influenced by? I mean, I know this is a ridiculous question, but were you influenced by impressionists or not at all, just by comics?
You know, both. I was influenced a lot by Phil Hendry and the Jerky Boys when I was a kid, and with vocal comedy, staying in character, that kind of thing. And I was very influenced at a young age by Mel Brooks movies and cartoons. And so, as far as stand up, I watched everything with my brothers. Like we constantly watched it, but I didn't remember much. I never, because we would see what was allowed on TV that, even if a kid's staying up too late, you're not going to see the most dangerous stuff. On broadcast or cable TV. And so once in a while in a hotel room, like not even every year, less than once a year, we'd be, if we were in a hotel room, we'd be like, well, we've got to watch comedy on HBO because that was like the main thing that you would do.
Right.
There was no way to stop us, basically.
But there's not a thing like you were Carlin, and who was the one who wrote a letter to Carlin? And
I knew who Carlin was, but mostly from seeing him on talk shows, basically, when I was a kid. Right. I mean, later on, yes, I came to watch his bigger, especially later specials.
But you didn't write a letter to Frank Gorshin when you were 4 years old, or John Biner when you were 7.
I don't, I guess, I mean, I loved Robin Williams when I was a little kid. He was like super famous when I was a little
Remember, Andy, he's like 10 years younger than me even. So.
Don't, folks, I told you, Josh, never bring that up because it hurts our numbers.
It hurts our numbers. That's a good one.
Our number, singular.
So like when you were a kid, like what was the first big, TV show you were into? I'm just trying to get
I used to watch Mork and Mindy with my mom.
All right.
And so I was always attracted to things where a grown up got to act like a kid. And so, I mean, to me, Robin Williams and Mork and Mindy and Jonathan Winters, I was like, that looks fun. And then in the movies, I was, when I saw Clue, I was 5 years old when I saw Clue, and I demanded to see all 3 endings in the theater. And it just seeing Martin Mull and Eileen Brennan and Tim Curry having so much, I could tell they were having fun. And that was the first time I realized what acting was, where it was like, these are adults pretending to do this, and they must have had so much fun filming it.
Do you think it was because it was so arch that you noticed they were acting, or that it was?
I mean, hindsight probably, but yeah, it was accessible to adults and kids. So.
Right.
There was like murder jokes. It was not for me. Like Cinderella was made for a kid, but this was not.
Right.
And then a couple of years after that, Spaceballs. I saw Spaceballs in the theater with my father, and it was a room full. It was in Atlanta, and it was a room full of dads and their sons, like laughing at the same jokes.
Did you have the Star Wars as a reference in your head by that point? Because you were born after it, right?
Yeah, but I saw Star Wars when they used to re-release the movies.
Sure.
So when Return of the Jedi came out in 1983, I was 3 years old, and I have vivid early memories of seeing all 3 Star Wars, like over the course of 3 days or something.
Okay.
I think my mom took us to see, like, we're going to see Star Wars again? This is a different one. Like we binged Star Wars in the early 80s when you had to do it at a multiplex. You
couldn't these days. You could see it on an ATM screen.
Jabba the Hutt wouldn't be allowed. Tatooine wouldn't be allowed in today's.
You can't be a Hutt today.
Yeah.
You can't do Amos and Andy with white guys anymore. That's the kind of society.
As Jabba the Hutt would say it, Utapata we pawata can't say anything anymore.
Who's the worst character?
Andy's never seen it, but I get it.
No, but isn't like Jar Jar Binks like a racist character?
Jar Jar Binks was a racist patois, yes.
They say that he was very hated as a character. There's some, if you get into the Star Wars lore, there's some characters that are these grotesque puppets where you're like, oh, that could have been a human actor if you didn't look down on a certain race of people.
Right. There's definitely the Jew merchant in one of them for sure.
Right. There's a flying Jew.
Yes.
I forgot that character's name, but he's like, I sell you this. I sell you.
Right. Kanahora.
But you know what Josh can do that you cannot do? You can't do Joey. Was it Joey Brown? Or the guy goes, yes. Who's that guy?
Oh, is that, I don't know who, I was thinking of that guy not long ago.
Yes. May I help you?
Now,
Frank Nelson is his name.
Frank Nelson. Somebody did a super clip of him that I saw on Instagram of like all the moments he did that on different TV shows.
I played it on our show a while back, but there was a radio interview of Frank Nelson talking about how he was on Jack Benny's show where he was mostly known from. And, they had a new director that week and he comes in and he does it. Yes. And the director's like, I don't want to, let's not do that. And then Jack Benny comes on and goes like, what the fuck? Why aren't you doing the thing I pay you to do?
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
fun.
bring it down. He was like bringing it down. This is off topic, but I saw on TN, I'm not bragging, I have TCM, and I saw that there was a short movie with Edgar Bergen. And I just want to say, I know it's not impressions, but how the hell did he ever make a penny? There's a scene in this movie where Charlie McCarthy's in the bathtub, like it's Jeff Dunham's thing, and Edgar Bergen is in a different room. I just am mystified. And he wasn't a good ventriloquist.
He was not. That's why he started on radio. But Charlie McCarthy became a huge star in his own right on radio.
Right.
I would love Andy Kindler to enter a phase of doing the Andy Kindler thing, but policing specifically ventriloquists.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Charlie, you have an Andy Kindler puppet too. Charlie McCarthy, have you no decency, sir?
Did you have to go so hard on Paul Winchell?
Well, Winchell, I know. You see, Winchell Mahoney, these are all things. My brother had Charlie McCarthy doll, and Winchell Mahoney and we used to say howdy doody in our house without any problems.
I did a ventriloquist thing on Freaks and Geeks, a scene where Sam Levine's character was going through a ventriloquist phase, so I had to do all this deep dive ventriloquism research to do it right. And it's
did you have to do the puppet or teach him how to do it or something?
Well, he spent some time with it.
He learned it. Okay.
He learned it, but the point wasn't that he was good at it. So it was, but it ended up being like a psychological, I'm sorry, I just lost the word, like an icon for him to rail on his father, kind of.
I see. Yeah. What do you call that? An effigy or something?
Yes.
Andy Kindler has been that to millions in his comedy career.
Don't say million. No one ever says millions in relation to my comedy career.
Not dollars, not people.
No. Millions of complaints from the same person. There was a time period where my agent at the time got very upset about this, but the other agents in the company were sending him comment cards, negative comment cards, like, look what happened to Andy. This guy hated him, and like as if they should stop booking me on the road because half the crowd didn't like.
Because like you would get comment cards, and instead of tearing them up, like which is the diplomatic thing to do, the club would then send them to
send them to the agent. Yes.
They would forward them on.
It's a weapon.
I hate when I even see comment cards. It's like, why are you doing this to me? Hey, did you guys like Mickey and Donald? Why don't you rate Mickey and Donald? Are there any other characters you'd rather see next time?
It's just like when you order DoorDash, before DoorDash comes, they were asking you to rate DoorDash. It's crazy.
Right. There's no way to rescind it.
I just had my greatest DoorDash experience ever yesterday.
What happened?
I couldn't find a cheese grater. I was making dinner. I needed the cheese grater.
Yes.
I called DoorDash. I had a cheese grater in 10 minutes, literally.
So a much lazier person would have been like, well, I got the whole dinner delivered.
Yes. Not that I haven't resorted to that, but
Right. That's usually what I do.
I just wanted the cheese, God damn it.
So James, this is me like, so James, what's next? What's next for James?
I don't know.
ADOMIAN.
We've got the special Path of Most Resistance, despite several ongoing meritless lawsuits.
That's not true, is it?
No. So lawsuits, despite the charges, it's coming out.
What did they what's the lawsuit about?
Well, they said it was too hot for American ears. They said it was too funny for North American audiences. So after this, I don't know. I feel there's people around me who are like, go, keep going, do something. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm already doing it. So I might take a staycation and go to Santa Monica or something.
What's the now that you're like 20 years into your career now?
Yeah.
So what's the best case scenario for you? Like what from now that you've done stand up all these years, you've done a lot of acting. Yeah.
Fuck Disneyland. I buy the Anaheim lot of Disneyland in a fire sale. And then we close it down, we fire everyone, and we reopen. It's ADOMIAN land.
Okay.
And it's all the beloved characters. In cartoons, podcast appearances, people are like, why don't you do that podcast anymore? Well, come down to ADOMIAN land and see it. And link rot is a thing of the past. Everything has been lost to link rot. Any of my colleagues, any of my friends, we have all their minor albums and it's like, imagine Disneyland, but you walk in and it's Main Street USA, and there's people's comedy albums that disappeared from the internet for good reason that are just playing at the same time all around you.
Ollie Joe Prater.
Yeah, and I'm there greeting kids as Tom Likas. Do you care? Dump that bitch. Talking about their mother.
1-800-5. Coming up in the next hour, why you should run your girlfriend over in a car. Why you should run your girlfriend over in a car. And I'm doing this just because I know James knows is great. So I'm wanting him to go, very, very good, Andy. Good. You really,
Thank you. Andy in Sherman Oaks, your hotel, yellow.
How about workshops? Why wouldn't you teach a workshop? And I would be down there.
I've tried to, but then I'm just like, people have hired me to do that before, like 3 times. And I show up and I'm like, well, today we're going to teach you how to do what I do. So just do a great impression. I don't know where the in is.
Now, can I ask you just a few, actual like nuts and bolts impression questions?
Yes.
And that is first of all, do you have a white whale? One that you just couldn't fucking get?
Not really. I have ones that I put on the shelf for a while because usually it's like the audience won't get it or it's too obscure. If it's too obscure, I don't bother. And people are like, what do you, it sounds like there's no one too obscure for you to do, James.
But if you have the bit, but not quite the voice, will you do it anyway?
Yes. I don't believe, yes. Yeah. And someone who is, hopefully these people don't exist, but there's people when you, let's say sometimes this will happen where you do the first impression of somebody ever in history. Let's say Lewis, of course someone else has done this, but just for sake of argument, let's say Lewis Black and you're like, dear diary, today was the best day of my life. No. And then someone on the internet, will go, that was good, but you didn't do this thing. And it's like, I created something out of nothing. You do your version of it. That's what I always say. Like, I'm not aiming for accuracy at all. I'm aiming to be funny. And there's people out there with like metal detectors. They've got like laugh detectors it's picking up there's a tone. There's a slight gravel tone that he's missing in the impression. And I don't want those people to be at shows. I don't want them in an audience anywhere. I mean, I want people want to have a good time. And, I also think if you're doing a voiceover on a microphone with headphones, you can get way more accurate with an impression.
Sure.
If you're also simultaneously running the room doing a stand-up show, you're doing an impression of the guy if he had to speak in front of 300 people, 50 of whom were too drunk.
Right. You can't just change the energy in the room to create the perfect situation for that impression.
It's tough sometimes to do someone like Elon Musk because he thrives in a world that's like very quiet and sort of mumbly and boring but like also insane, bloodthirsty, insane.
And everyone waits for him to finish.
And they wait for him to finish because he owns these interviewers that allow him to be boring. But then if you do that in a stand-up show, you have to bump it up. So it's like Elon Musk, the supervillain, is the way you have to do it at a stand-up show.
Sure.
And so there's built-in inaccuracies that have to happen in order to be able to run the room in a stand-up show or a different context. Whereas like if you're narrating a book on tape, it can sound much more accurate in the microphone.
As a stand-up, are you happier if you have a bit that involves an impression, or are you happier if you have a more freestanding one? Well, like what are you hoping for at this point?
Either way, I could see
like not all your voices are impressions. Some of them are just straight up characters for the bit.
Some of them are just illustrating a bit as like a certain kind of person.
Right.
Like those, it's like a British guy sometimes. That
Very often just some British guy.
So good. No, but it was so good because I was just fascinated by the gay actor over 40. To me, I can't stop thinking about it.
Oh yes, yes. There's the few roles that are correct for a gay actor over the age of 40.
Just amazing. I'm sorry, Josh.
That's okay.
If there's an impression that can be shoehorned into a comedy bit, then to me it's like a cherry on top. It's like an extra thing.
Yeah.
I know it's gonna happen often enough. But I really don't feel much pressure. I actually avoid fan service. If someone's like, I'm gonna come to your show if you do Tom Likas, I don't respond to those people because I don't want to be beholden to these crazy fans.
Right. Well,
so
and you don't want to cheapen your thing to party trick either, really.
Yeah. So basically my mantra is just like, don't give the people what they want.
That's where you're like Andy.
Yeah.
Well, when he does me, nobody knows what he's doing. And in fact, I have to be on the show for it to make sense. Right. It's not
well, you'd be surprised, Andy. Sometimes if a joke doesn't work, that is like one of the parachutes I have on my Batman belt, where it's if something doesn't work, I'll be like, what's wrong? The Shakespeare material? What didn't do it for you? Should I pause on the Chaucer chunk? Huh?
It enrages me that you changed none of the actual material to do me. It's the exact material that I'm doing. It's exactly right. But let's not make this about me.
Or a third form of Elizabethan poetry. Huh? No, I've always loved what you do, Andy, and you gave me permission to search for things on stage. Now, you may not ever find them, but it's always fun to watch you search for a joke on stage.
And I want to just say this before we wrap up is that, and this is it's not a weird thing to say, but I've seen people like Tig from when they first started to now, and she was funny the first time I saw her. But the evolution of how you've done stand up, it's not like it's remarkable because you're great, but I really think it's not like you ever didn't have it all integrated, but I just am amazed because I'm old that I can see you at the beginning and see you where you are now.
You know, as another old guy, I agree. It is really fun to see people grow. You know, it's fun to see people find their thing. And, you know, I've had so many experiences with people who I saw in their early thing, and then they've taken the leap the next time, and it's very exciting.
I appreciate it. I feel from my point of view, like I've taken a leap a few times and fallen flat, and it seems to be working enough to be here, to be at this point right now today. I do love also when I see younger comics, and I don't mind it. Sometimes you see them and you're like, oh, they've got it. there's something they haven't figured out, but they've got it.
Yes,
Right.
it's
And
exciting.
that's always very fun.
Exciting.
Because-
I mean, Maria Bamford even, who was hilarious. You saw her go from where she would just launch
Yeah, and I
characters.
saw her in Minneapolis when she was first starting out, and just that she became this amazing, captivating genius, is in my opinion.
Oh, Maria. I know she was one that I saw early on when she was really young. I saw her on TV.
Yeah.
Oh, Maria, we have a gig for you at Tijuana. It's a fruit truck.
Yeah.
When I met her, she was working in a Star Trek trade show thing, and she had her head shaved to play the character.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yes. But anyway, congratulations on the new special, man. It's really, really great. It's called The Path of Most Resistance. It's available at 800 Pound Gorilla or now on YouTube.
Now on YouTube.
Congrats on just making it happen, and it was absolutely a worthwhile choice to do so.
Thank you. Have you guys ever experienced this where there's like jokes that are getting so old you're like, I have to either throw them overboard or record them?
Yeah, that's why I made an album.
That's what I was doing with a lot of these things. I was like, I can't keep telling these jokes.
Unfortunately, I haven't written the next act since I did the album.
Right,
I really
right.
haven't. I'm like, all right, that's enough.
Well, the pandemic derailed many of us, especially the guys. People are sneezing.
Oh, I lost your audio for a second. Sorry.
No, that's what people say after a show. I lost the audio, Andy. I didn't.
No, they say I lost the thread.
Oh, I think. Why do you have to gang up on me? Why?
I lost the threads. I'm on Blue Sky.
That's right.
Is it Blue Sky? That's right, Blue Sky.
Well, I wish I had a funny closer.
Wouldn't that be something, folks? Wouldn't there, if there was a dismount of some kind, a third act, as it were? Save the cat. I'm still trying to adopt the cat.
Do the Richard Pryor for me.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Richard Pryor, what's wrong? Richard Previous was too busy? Huh?
This is very it's bad that's all. That's not all I want, but I love it. I wish I could have it on a daily basis. You could visit. Well, we're supposed to get together.
We are soon. Let's do it soon.
Susan loves you and misses you all the time.
Love to see Susan anytime. And if there's a hot show, if you're doing one of the Largo shows, or
absolutely. And I have if
if you have your residency at the Copacabana, whatever it is,
We
I'm a
both want to be and friends to Andy Kindler. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, James.
Thank you.
Again, congrats and good luck with the special. Everyone
Thank you.
should watch it.
Thank you, James. I love
Josh
you.
and Andy. Really great time talking to you
Cool.
about comedy and television and showbiz and everything in between.
Yeah, we're taking a break. Yeah, we ended the call. But we'll be back in no time at all. Yeah, we're taking a breath. But don't go away. 'Cause we got one more hour for the end of the day. So don't go away. Don't go away. Don't go away. Don't go away. Please stay. Don't go away. Don't go away. Don't go away.
Yeah.
So I need to leave here at 11. So
So start talking.
Okay.
Start talking.
And I have
Jesus.
to, okay, so, hey, how are you? How are you? Hey, is it oh, well, hello?
Hi.
Is it Friday already? Oh my God.
You're late for school.
Mommy, I don't like you. No, that wouldn't be. That's not what I would say, would I? To my mother? At that age?
No.
If I could have said that, then I would have been able to go, if I would have been able to
Maybe
say
you
like
would
Jim
have found
Morrison.
some emotional turf to stand on.
Mother. I wish I could have said this to her. Mother. That's Jim Morrison's mother. Mother, I hate you. Father.
I want to kill you.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a little bit past he goes further than the Julia song. Well, actually, the Julia song is a positive song. So that does not exactly work. All of a sudden, he's not writing Julia, Mother. And also, but how about John Lennon? He is, Mother, you had me. I didn't have you.
But I never had you.
Yeah.
Which makes it sexual in a way.
And that's your issue. And that album influenced me so greatly. And part of the album is bad. It's just those freaks
Well, I
on
can feel that part of the influence on you.
Those freaks on the phone. They won't leave me alone. They keep giving me that brother. Then he has working.
It was
what?
a lot of the Lennon stuff was diamonds in the rough territory, you know.
Yeah, but I loved it. I love like when he does the song Brother. Okay, so that's the one. Oh, but then he says there's no. He just says forget the dream's over. The dream is over.
Yeah,
that was yesterday. Pointed reference to McCartney, and so my dear friends, you just have to carry on. The dream is over. Why do I have to hear that at age fucking 14 or whatever?
Yeah, it's just a fucking song, man.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was a school.
It's not a psychological or philosophical treatise. It's a fucking 3-minute song.
Okay, well then he has a great song called "Working Class Hero," and at the end he goes, from birth till your death. So this is also what I'm hearing. This is going to happen to me from birth to your death. But you're no fucking hero as far as I can see. If you want to be a hero, then just follow me. Get into a rock band? Is that right?
No, have a healthy relationship.
Yeah, but I still haven't gotten how you got past the working class part. How do I get past that working class part?
What do you mean I got past it?
I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you as John Lennon. You're telling me the song. You're telling me I'm a work. If you want to be a hero, just follow me. Well, first of all, if you're saying you don't believe in Jesus, you don't believe in this, but now you're saying I should follow you?
I think it was kind of a Randy Newman-like character.
The freaks on the phone, they won't leave me alone. Who's calling John Lennon's house and getting through that is bothering him with religious
I don't know.
things?
Remember that freak guy showed up at their house and he went out and chatted, so who knows?
That was good. First of all, I don't want anybody to think I'm turning on John Lennon now, because I love John Lennon.
John Lennon could still be answering the phone if he was alive. Well, yes, my car warranty has expired. Yoko, has our car warranty expired?
Well, that song, Hold On, Yoko, Hold On, that's on there, right?
I guess, sure.
Yes. And so my ex-girlfriend, Patty, her nickname was Cookie, and she was on acid before she met me, and she's listening to that song. And right in the middle of the song, John Lennon goes, Cookie. He doesn't. He goes, okay. But she was convinced that she's listening to the Beatles, Cookie. I mean, that sounds more than I Buried Paul backwards.
It does. Phonetically, at least.
Josh Allen Weinstein.
Alan?
How are you? What?
What?
I don't know why I'd like you to have. Did we establish that you have a middle name? You don't have a middle name.
I do have a middle name.
No, real one, not a joke middle name.
I have both.
Matthew. Josh Matthew Weinstein.
It's not correct.
Is it close?
It's not, really.
Trevor?
No.
Palmer.
No.
Palmer. Trevor.
No.
Dante?
No. Oh.
I love that comedian in Canada doing his impression of all of people his age. Dante! Dante. All right. Give me a clue. I would like a clue. A clue sometime. Is it?
I don't really have a clue so much.
Is it a regular name that most people have, or is it a Horace? Is it John?
It's not a name one would blanch at.
Is it Blanche?
It's Blanche.
That's my grandma.
Really?
Yeah. What kind of a name was that? I would blanch every time I saw her. Are you laughing for me? What's wrong? What's wrong, little fella? Little fella. Little fella. Little fella.
Yeah.
Okay. Little child. Little child. Okay, look. Here's the thing. I have so many things to talk about before your mess up.
Yeah.
It's not my mess up, and I have to get out of here. I have to be.
Stop telling me when you have to leave and just engage.
No, because it's more true to my personality to already have an out about why this sucks.
You can just leave at any time. I don't care.
Oh, I can't believe it. After all we've been, where'd you go?
I can just read letters aloud and answer them? I think I can.
What are you talking about? Where'd you go? Yeah, you can read the letters. You can read the letters without me. That is probably what you probably should do is read everything in the letter and then bring me on for the response.
It will be the same.
I want to be treated as like some kind of a star. Okay, so here's what I want to tell you. I am listening to a great book. Is that the way? Is that the way you should say it from now on?
Yes.
Okay. The same guy who
I heard a book today. Oh boy!
About a lucky. So here's what happens. I had my last audiobook. Fantastic. Drugs, Demons, and Drums. The Jim Gordon story, which we talked about.
Yes.
I have to sneeze. Woo. Don't put something weird in there. I'm serious this time.
I won't. I'll just leave.
A regular
I'll go
thing.
verite.
So I got another book by him because I love the book about Jim Gordon, and this one's about Altamont. I want to recommend Joel Selvin is his name. He writes, and here's I know I'm guilty of this.
Let me guess. It's the end of the 60s. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He writes in a way where he's able to cover a lot of different personalities in a deep way. And it's not like I'm just giving you an example. Let's say if a guy wasn't hip to the time period, he would be talking all weird about the LSD. That's not how he's talking. He's on good LSD, bad LSD. I mean, he's a contemporary of that time period. He must be.
Wow, so he's a baby boomer. How rare.
You know, the thing is, here's what is perfect about the role that you have adopted and taken over.
Cultivated, I think.
Cultivated is you are going to ridicule the way I'm telling the story. That's part
if
of
I
the
have
joy.
to. If I have to, I will.
It's a call. It's more like it's like judges. So this book is talking about Altamont. I think it's called Altamont. And how
clever. No, I'm sorry.
I never even saw Gimme Shelter. It's like a thing that one of them is directed by
Gimme Shelter is the Maisleys.
And the Maisel brothers. Okay. So yeah, they're all over this book because they were hired to come on and but I haven't seen the movie is what I'm saying. I've always avoided seeing the movie. So the thing that I wanted to say about it that will reinforce, kind of backs up your view of Woodstock. And I want to just say that my view of Woodstock was never based on this is how it happened, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And they lost Tiny Baby. The tiny baby is born. He's playing a little tambourine. Oh, we have birth. We're going to have breakfast for 9 billion. I don't know. Hey, I didn't even know what capitalism was when I first heard him say. For those of you, I'm being totally honest. For those of you who think that capitalism isn't too weird, I was saying, what? Am I supposed to be not going into stores now?
That's right. Just wait for someone to deliver you granola.
So the truth is that the essence of Woodstock, me loving Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, these great, and the idea that a large amount of people could get together for 3 days. Wouldn't that be wonderful? It's just not true.
Yeah.
It's not true.
It's not true.
So it's not true. And not only was it not true, it actually contributed to Altamont being a complete disaster, because what happened was that Mick Jagger got into this whole thing about wanting to do a free concert.
Yes.
So they wanted to do a free concert. It was supposed to be Golden Gate Park.
Right.
But by the time everything shakes down, it's at this Altamont, which it shouldn't have been at to begin with. But here's the thing. It's like when I was a kid, I would go, well, why would they hire, here's me at 12, 13, 14. Why would they hire the Hells Angels? They're bad people.
Right.
Why do you hire them? Get me the, look, I'll take acid with you again, but you have to agree with me that they shouldn't have hired the Hells Angels. Okay, I'll shut up. Right. But here's the thing. They couldn't hire them. They did not trust the police, rightfully so.
Right.
They had a horrible relationship with the police.
Yeah.
So this is where you're in a bad place.
Also, there was a protection racket aspect to it, I think, too, with the Hells Angels. Like either you hire them or they're going to fuck it up somehow.
Well, yeah, I mean, also, but you have also all these competing things. Alan Klein, Marvin Belli. You must have seen Gimme Shelter. Is that what you saw?
Yes.
Is that so? Gimme Shelter sums it up pretty good.
Not really. I mean, it's more of a pastiche of the scene than it is.
And it shows you the actual killing.
Yeah.
This storytelling is unbelievable. The way he captures what happened. But the point again is, I'm just pointing these things out. I don't have an answer for this. I just think it's interesting. When I was more in the Bill Hicks camp when I first started comedy. How can you commercialized, how can you commercialize your music? But the truth is, all music is the truth is, if
Once
I had
you sign
followed,
a record deal, you've commercialized your music.
Right. So if I had been, I mean, not that I didn't admire what Bill Hicks was saying, he was just talking about, but the point is that, the idea of having a free show, they wanted to have a free show to get some of that Grateful. I'm not saying all this is true. I'm just saying the book says this. The Grateful Dead cred. And they also had this inflated understanding of what the Hells Angels were, like the Hells Angels in England when they had a concert were riding on with old mustaches and going cuckoo kazoop. It's a totally different story. And they had ascribed to all of the people in California some kind of knowledge and stuff. But then it also got that they wanted to do this free show and they should never have continued on with that idea.
Yeah.
But this is stuff I couldn't have understood when I was young. But it makes me think about do you remember when you're young? I don't know if you can remember this, but when you're I know you son of a bitch. I remember when you're inhaling, like you don't take the cream and go, thank you. And then, well, let me think about this Elton John. No, you're taking it all in. You're taking it all in on the understanding it's probably great. It's probably great, right? So that's
here's
how
the thing though with me is I became a stand-up at 15. So
right, that's early.
So my propensity to romanticize anything pretty much ended at that moment.
Right.
Other than stand-up,
Especially since you were the first stand-up to have a 401k.
Exactly.
It's hard to talk about revolution when you're doing a bit about how Chinese. You don't do these bits though. No, you don't.
You can't even characterize my stand-up because you've only seen it like 3 times in your life.
That's wrong. That's a lie. As a bald-faced lie. Now, here's the thing: a bald-faced lie in the days of today, truth. I mean, it's the truth.
That's right. I prefer a bearded lie anyway.
Oh, okay. What was I? Please get me back on track.
You're Altamont.
The point that I'm making is that the actual. What are you going to do about society? It's like the song Revolution, which they say that he says out and in too at the end in one version.
Yeah.
But we all want to talk about when you talk about destruction, don't you know that you can count me out, right? But the point is, the Beatles were making, if you go carrying pictures of Chairman Mao, you're not going to make it with anyone. I mean, that really was what people were doing. That's what that people on the left say, like Jane Fonda. I don't blame Jane Fonda. I loved her. But at the time, just going to take Ho Chi Minh's propaganda.
It's no different than someone, than being pro Hamas because you're against what Israel is doing.
Exactly. I think it was hard. It was more, not that it was more nuanced, but it was more like that's the big argument everybody was having in the world. Oh, the communists are going to take over every country like the domino effect. And I don't even think
Trump's
dominoes.
trying to bring it back, baby.
I don't even think dominoes got popular across the country. But I'm talking about, and I guess it relates to therapy, that it's like it is the Bob Dylan song. I was so much older than I'm younger than that now.
How many 60s songs are you going to quote today, for fuck's sake?
Let me tell you something.
Christ.
Let me tell you something. I think the Beau Brummel, first of all, I didn't even know there was a group named the Beau Brummels until 2 days ago. Yeah. And I didn't realize that. Then you find out the
You were
group's name.
days ago years old when you found out?
No, it was 2 days ago. No, here's what I'm saying. Then you can start to go place. Oh, you know how you used to think every song that sounded like the Ronettes was the Ronettes and they weren't? So now you can say some of these things like that you liked were Beau Brummels now. Now I can identify them as Beau Brummels. You can too, right?
I don't know what you're exactly getting at.
Okay, if I played you the 60s song, you would immediately know that they were the Beau Brummels, but having never heard the name before, right?
Well, I know the Beau Brummels, but I can't remember what their hit was right now.
They have 5 or 6 or 7 of them.
Okay. What were they?
And I don't know. I never, because I can only hear them when if you play them, it'll be like laugh, something with laugh in it. Laugh, yeah.
Laugh before I cry.
That's them.
It seems so funny to me. That thing?
Yes, that's the Beau Brummels. And then you can start to hear them in the other songs of their hits. They were excellent group. Yeah. They were excellent. That's all I'm saying. But the point is,
it's sort of for me, it's like it's the 70s version of that was Supertramp. Like if you can't place it, it's probably Supertramp.
And what do I always do when I'm at a department store? What do I always ask the person?
I don't know.
Is when there's music on, is this Drake? Excuse me, is this Drake? And it very often is Drake. What can I do? Jokes from my act. You do jokes from your act the whole goddamn time.
I would buy it more if you were saying, is this Drek? Because you're an old Jew, is my point. You, old Jew.
This is what disappoints me. We start late because of your problem. First of all, in America, you have to assign blame. I don't know if my family started that.
No, I believe it was my ancestors.
Yeah. Andy, what happened was, I know what happened was, it wasn't just on my end, but I'm going to fall on the knife. Why are there knives to be fallen on?
You've never fallen on a knife in your life.
No, I've never done. Another way to look at that is I've never done anything
altruistic.
Never done anything for the good of others. The point I'm making is this. And it is a therapeutic point. My belief that life was black and white, words like sounds like black and white, were ideas of were my map. Okay, look, I really had this black and white view of looking at things, and it absolutely runs counter to your actual living of life. So, in other words, I kind of believe Bill Hicks and what he said, but I could not have made a living if I hadn't gone out for commercial auditions, right? So, whatever he's saying, I couldn't become Bill Hicks in lieu of,
right?
So
yeah, but it's like all of these things that they're all connected because it's like I couldn't do what Bill Hicks said in a stand-up bit. I couldn't do what these guys said in a 3-minute song. You know, these are pop culture things.
No, I don't think I'm following. I think I'm actually not following you.
I'm just saying that I'm saying that you're trying to build a personal morality system based on very on ideas that weren't necessarily meant to apply to a whole life. They were meant to apply to
but you see,
a single tiny piece of art.
no, but I guess it goes along, and I think people love as the greatest hit me saying that everyone's life should be revolving around my life. So everyone's life should have been hippies. I loved the hippies. I didn't realize those. In other words, like that. I actually believed in my heart these things that were not really, in a way, nonsensical. And in my family, in 1968, I don't even, this is too embarrassing even, but I'm going to say it anyway. I was 12 years old, and for some reason, I decided that I wanted to back Humphrey. My parents backed McCarthy, but McCarthy it was Humphrey running. And I think I was ridiculed within the family. And then I was like, it wasn't like I was Michael J. Fox in whatever that character is, Keaton. Yeah. I was trying to do the right thing, but I even remember having arguments like, because I was too young, and I was like, well, the Mayor Daley, he said that he tried to do something. It's just, I'm a kid, right?
Right.
So the thing is, I was ridiculed for that within my family. I'm not saying they ganged up on me. So, but I did form this thing that anytime I think of 1968, what do I think of? That I supported, that 12-year-old Andy Kindler supported Humphrey.
Yeah.
That's not what happened in 1968. In other words, it's not my fault I'll give you another example.
Well, no, we need to go through this.
Okay.
Because this is something I think that if you really examine it, you might be able to let go of it. Because you were 12.
Well, that's definitely a very real part of it.
You were not expected to have a fully formed political viewpoint.
Well, that's the thing in college. That's the thing that it has nothing to do with the issues. It's all with my family, because I remember that I was very influenced by Mr. Stein. And Mr. Stein said to me once during the class, my father was saying, we just need to get out. We just need to get out. And then Vietnam, just get there, get a car, go out tomorrow. And I said, well, Mr. Stein says that's very simplistic. I don't even know what simplistic means. I'm not sure what Mr. Stein said. They came down on me. Oh, it's like, your father's a genius. So sometimes my sister would get on my father's a genius side.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it got to be like in 1973, it was me like really loving my teacher, Mr. Stein, and thinking that my father was going, are you not going to back your father over Mr. Stein? I mean, this is all in my head probably. It's not the way it really happened.
Right.
But hence the attachment to these ideals that I never include gray areas. Never included gray areas. In my house, it didn't include gray areas.
Right.
You don't do this, you do that. Good people do this, they don't do that. Shut up, everybody. We don't want to hear from you. Boom. These are very strong moral strictures.
Yeah.
So is that because I grew up during the time period I grew up, and I went to a candlelight vigil, and I thought this was like it was right before I got drafted, or it was so it's indelibly printed on my. No, that can't be true. Everybody has a his
because
story.
You grew up among unreasonable people.
Yeah, I never thought about that. But in such a weird way, too, because it's like my father, it was in a very damaging way because he was so smart. I'd love to talk to you about physics, but there are so many concepts that you just would not be able to understand. It's very complex.
He was a very insecure man, Andy.
He was, but I don't want anybody now to be saying
it's too late. We've all formed our
opinion. It's too late, baby.
We've all formed our
okay,
opinions
let me switch
about
to
your parents.
this. Let me switch to this. Carole King's album was the greatest album of all time.
Which one? Tapestry or something?
Yeah, it's biggest selling album of all time. I loved it. And yet, as good as it was, it still contained Smackwater Jack, which is not a good song.
Yeah.
Smackwater. I've tried to convince, just like I've tried to convince myself to like, ba-ba-da-boo-boo, using my hair. I try to like every Beatles song.
Yeah.
I try to like every song of the people I respect.
Yeah, I don't.
I know, because you didn't grow up a hippie. You grew up like, fuck those hippies. They can stick it up their ass.
I still feel that way, really.
I know. That's the thing. Well, that's the truth. I laughed hilariously when I read Daniel Clow's portrayal of hippies, in his thing. And but it wasn't until then, and Patton Oswalt would call us dirty hippies, whatever. It wasn't until then, that I didn't realize that hippies got such bad because of the summer of hate.
It is because of that, though, that Woodstock's perceived success got such legendary status.
Yes,
because people were so certain that a gathering of these dirty hippies would result in a fucking, hippie apocalypse, that, the fact that there wasn't widespread death or a huge bonfire, there wasn't Woodstock 99 happening.
I know. It really is. It really is.
It was such a mitigated success. The real fact of the matter is people fucking broke down the walls, and it was a financial disaster that was only pulled out by the movie of it.
Well, but also the media, way the media frames things. They're doing it. That this is a great story. Now it's a great story. 2 years later, it'll be we beat up those dirty hippies get beaten up.
Right.
But for that brief,
the real story was people like Max Yasgur and the other people of the town going, "No, these are nice kids."
That was all bullshit. That was all bullshit. Hold on one second. I still have to do one thing, please, and don't do anything while I'm gone.
La la la.
31.
La la la.
32.
La la la.
33. Well, tell him I can't do the movie for that price. Well, who would be able to? I don't care if I'm the fifth. Oh, shut up.
Not right now, Lucky. No.
He talks to you?
It's a she, and yes.
She. I fucked that up. Here's the thing I'm saying. The media is going to cover, the media will move Lenny Bruce's body to oppose it more horribly. So in other words, the media is capable of these horrible things with Marilyn Monroe.
Move Lenny Bruce's body?
They moved his body to take pictures to make him look more like his head was in the toilet or whatever, to make it look as more horrible than it was. It already was horrible. But the point is that part, or hounding Marilyn Monroe, as the song Norma Jean would say. This is always a part of the.
Stop quoting songs. I'm sorry.
There's always going to be a part of what happens when the media or any group gets to be a monstrosity. Whether they were saying Trump is the lesser of two, lesser of two evils, or whatever it is, and it's always for ratings and stuff like that, and for greed. Is what happens. Greed takes over. Can take over. Now there's governors on all of this stuff, right? I'm just saying that there's a side of people who want to revel about Jim Gordon killing his mother and just being those dirty hippie drug casualties or whatever. So I don't know why I'm not getting through, but I think I'm starting to get annoyed. So let's go to something else.
I just don't understand what.
Then I know, but that's annoying to me because I feel like you're not annoying me. I'm annoying me. I feel like I can't make a point. It's like a quicksand thing. I still have not been in quicksand yet, but I still feel like nothing you can, and I wouldn't resist. That's where you and I would be different.
Right.
I don't resist. Just go straight down.
This is an easy way out.
I don't know why everybody was so.
Thank God I can end this story. So before we go to questions, we should at least acknowledge James Adomian was here earlier in the show.
Oh my God, this is again, it's my fault, but mostly your fault. That was so much fun, James, being here. And now people have to know that he's not here for the you're saying it because you don't want the people to think he's here for the question.
No, I think they kind of know that he was gone since he didn't say a fucking thing for the last 30 minutes.
But what an experience that was.
For him.
I think,
for him.
But how about for us?
A delight.
It's such a delight. I love that special. I talked about it. Where was I on another show? I was on another show. What would I be talking about? About how he had. Oh yeah, I did my show. Keister and Kindler. Where were you? How come you didn't call in?
Because I'm threatened.
It makes you angry to see me do an unorganized thing that happens once every 12 months.
Is he really going out with him?
No, is that Elvis Costello?
No.
Who is that?
That's Joe Jackson.
That's another guy we don't talk about as much, who I love so much. Everything gives you cancer. There's no cure. How many of these fucking songs am I going to start? What is my point? What's my point?
My point is to stop.
Anyway, we want to thank James Adomian once again. He's driving home right now while we do the questions. I think you're making a serious mistake by puncturing the fantasy that is, we're here, there's live, somebody could call in live.
Yeah. Trade-offs.
There's trade-offs.
It's time for questions. What do you want to know? We love your questions so much. It's half our show. Half our show.
It sounds like you're using the oil can from The Wizard of Oz.
Does it?
What's the matter with you? You're kind of doing my kind of comedy, just pure anger.
Hearing Andy Kindler talk about life coaches on today's Thought Spiral with J. Elvis Weinstein reminds me that Andy's bit for Dave about it was my gateway drug to him. I'd link to it, but I can't find it.
Thank you. That's sous vide, right?
And then you dutifully answered right away. Viacom pulls down most clips. I see if I can find it.
I know. Another thing where I'm people pleasing.
They know the bit.
People pleasing. And I also, let me see if I can find, first of all, I have it on DVDs and stuff, but I can't start I have it crisper where I look so good. There's some of them where I look so good, I even look good.
Wow.
Not bad.
Tweet Bahara says, any thoughts on the way Joe Cocker moved and sang? Was there some physical issue there? I've always wondered.
I don't think there was a physical issue.
There was not.
There.
That was his version of abandon.
Yeah, no, he had drinking problems and stuff like that may have added to his general joie de vivre.
I don't know that he would have called it a problem, but it was a lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, I think he died from alcoholism, is what I think.
Yeah.
He also pissed off a lot of mad dogs and Englishmen. He's dealt with in both of the books I'm talking. They talk about it, touch on him, and that he was with Leon Russell and all this kind of stuff. Leon Russell kind of took over. It was supposed to be Joe Cocker's story. Then Leon Russell said, "You're going to be basically a sideman." By the time Joe Cocker got back to wherever he started, he was drinking even more heavily. But that doesn't mean we can't.
Any more half stories?
That doesn't mean we can't love him. We love that Joe Cocker.
I do love Joe Cocker.
I think it was Jim Belushi. Do you think it was Jim Belushi doing the impression that made people actually?
It was John Belushi doing the impression.
I always thought that was Jim Belushi.
It was not. I mean, while it was, super exaggerated, it wasn't as exaggerated as you would necessarily think had you never seen Joe Cocker. Like if he, it wasn't that exaggerated.
No, that's why it's a great impression. Yeah.
I mean, the flailing on the floor part was.
Yeah, but that's where that's where for many years all of comedy was not all of comedy loved to make fun of people crazy. He's crazy. Woo! Not so much anymore.
No, thank God we've gotten rid of that.
I wish I could characterize you. It's not like you're a pill, but you're kind of like you're not having any of it.
That sums it up pretty well.
A pill is a negative thing.
An impatient pill, sure, I can live with that.
I apologize because a pill is not ever.
It's not positive.
It's always negative. Joan,
But I've
don't be a
called you a
pill.
little pill with a big story to tell before. Stephen Chaotic Neutral says, "Hey guys, bit of a bummer. A bunch of people in my World of Warcraft clan recently had some kind of mass freak accident. The battery in all their cell phones or something exploded. Wishing everyone in Hezbollah Horde all the best."
Is this some kind of joke about the Hezbollah attack or the attack on
it would appear to be.
Is it like a lighthearted take?
It is. It is.
And I don't know if I'm ready for it yet.
No.
No, it seemed like a horrible thing that happened there.
It is a
I don't
horrible
know.
thing.
I don't know why you keep saying Netanyahu's the guy. Listen to Netanyahu.
It was. It's certainly an interesting news item in that there is certainly a sense of wonder about having pulled it off.
Yes,
but
yes,
also
because somebody
a sense
said
of horror about what the actual project entailed. Yeah.
it's much like the people who said that the nuclear bomb could ignite the whole world. They were relieved when it didn't. Right? It's like that kind of. They still dropped it, even though there was a 1 in 30 trillion chance that it could destroy the entire world, just the first nuclear bomb.
At least according to the movie.
Nobody should listen to me. I really think that John Glenn was Ed Davis. That's not his name.
No.
Ed Davis was a mayor of something.
Ed Harris. That's what you're saying.
Ed Harris. Yeah. Do you know he was married to Kamala Harris?
He was not?
No. Look at this, Josh. Do you like it?
The way you're holding
everything's cool.
The mic and the crux of your thumb and forefinger.
Oh, by the way, this was so funny, Josh. By the way, thank you for James Adomian. I don't know why Josh doesn't think you should thank the guests. But last night I said Mets and Jets win, and then Josh texted back, "Well, that means you're a good person." Today. And that, I don't know if everyone knows what that's based on, don't they? That, like, I'm trying to be the best fan of all time.
I think people understand.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, sir, while I don't like the Philadelphia Phillies, I recognize how great they truly are. And I wish both of us good luck down the stretch. Like that.
Yeah, exactly. I doff my Mets cap to you.
Do you know what they say? I am rooting for the home team, and if they don't win, it is a shame.
BDUS says, guys, rapid fire. Stephen Wright or Norm Macdonald? I'll go Norm just for variety of content.
I'll go with Stephen Wright.
All right. Bill Hicks or Stuart Lee? Bill Hicks.
I would say Bill Hicks, but I think Stuart Lee is brilliant. I don't know his material like I know Bill Hicks, but he is brilliant.
Fred Armisen or Zach Galifianakis? I'm going to go Zach.
I'll go with Zach there too. But what do we have to go with? I'm friends with some of these people.
Dennis Miller or Cyrano de Bergerac giving head?
Well, I'll go with. I don't like blue questions.
All right. Ellen DeGeneres or mediocre roadkill? Well, if it's mediocre roadkill.
Right, this is getting, the personal.
RFK Jr. and Cheryl Hines or dog on a spit?
Cheryl Hines, to me, is a symbol of almost pure evil. It's almost pure evil.
Now she's been cheated on, so have some.
What do you mean?
Have some compassion.
Who would she cheat on? When he slept with Olivia Nunzi or something?
Yes.
That woman's, and I don't want to call her that woman, but she was already a horrible columnist who was obviously, who would sleep
Imagine
with
RFK having bad judgment about anything.
No. Here's the thing. Here's all I'm thinking. She's a very attractive woman. She writes. Why would she sleep with RFK Jr.? Why would anybody sleep with him? How do you know you're not going to get secondary bear disease, mauling disease?
Yeah. Do you want to work this out for next week?
Yeah, for next week.
Seth Dick III says, turns out in Rizzoli and Isles, Angie Harmon is supposed to be Italian. She may look it and perhaps sound it with that oh-so-sultry voice, but she's no Lorraine Bracco. She won't even be cast in a watered-down Scorsese ripoff.
Oh my
That's a
God!
lot
Why
of
are they wearing
Angie Harmon hate coming from?
First of all, Angie Harmon. All I know about her, she's a very beautiful woman, and she's a fan of my comedy. I don't know.
Scrumptious Mike says preschool Geneva Convention, then says, scratch that, I meant preschool Nuremberg trials. Love the show.
I'm ready for it, baby.
Mr. Dr. Mangoa.
Dr. Mangoa,
is it true that you performed hideous experiments
I can't understand what
on
this...
people my age
Why is this
and
child...
others in direct contravention to the laws of decency?
This is like the Nuremberg trial if Tweety Bird...
Please go to Nuremberg trial! Guilty!
The preschool version of Anne Frank. Get out of there! Someone smack the door!
Iman Lusk, also known as Warps Your Head, says, Hi! You've mentioned a few times being in a music video for a hip-hop song, but haven't mentioned the artist. Well, I want to watch that music video and need the deets. Yes, Warps Your Head uses words like deets.
I love
hip-hop.
it. Warps Your Head deserves to use them.
Were you in a video?
No, I don't think so. Weren't you in the same video I was in with the basketball players?
No, that was
the basketball.
That was volleyball, and that wasn't a music video, really.
All right, so
Well,
explain to me.
I guess.
Give me the question then again. I was in something?
You've mentioned a few times being in a music video for a hip hop song. But
No, I have never mentioned a few times. And you could go to I'm sorry, and I don't want to come down heavily on you, but I'm sure Perush will back me up that I've never been in the hip hop. I'd like to be in the hip hop concert once.
It would be good for your brand.
Yes, it would. You dog, you. Okay. All right.
We're going to the gram.
Going to the gram.
Ted Toons says, I had stalled out on the latest season of Hacks after 2 episodes, but last night watched number 3 on a lark, which is the roast featuring Andy. It's a great episode. I'm back on board and looking forward to finishing the season. I'm not saying it was Andy that turned it all around, but I'm not saying it. Andy, I agree that I wanted more of your roast material, but I understand why they had to edit so tightly.
I do think that they include some of the other roast material online of all of the people. You can, if you want to learn more about Hacks, that kind of thing, and you can see. But here's the thing: did we talk about that they won the
Hacks
Emmy?
Overtime.
That's right. They won the Emmy, right?
I did know that. Yeah.
Yeah, you do this a lot. That's one of your classics. Your quotation guy.
Yeah, that's good. At least I have a brand. I'm happy with that.
Will you stop saying brand? You've been telling me about.
I will not. But
what does that mean? It's just your act.
Full Dork says, what's on the menu if you had to pick a last meal?
Oh, this is... Okay, I'm going to go by I'm going to try and put aside that's a last meal.
Yeah.
All right? Because I wouldn't be hungry
because
if
that's
I knew
the
it was
question.
the last meal.
Right.
Yeah, because I don't want anything then. No, thank you.
Okay.
I'll just sit in the dark. But I have to say surf and turf.
Surf and turf. And what
a little surf and turf thing going.
What cut of turf, first of all?
Well, I don't like filet. I mean, filet mignon certainly is, but I prefer ribeye. What's the thing that has both of them in there? New York steak? No, a porterhouse.
A porterhouse or a T-bone has both. So.
Yeah, I will have a porterhouse, and I would like to sound like Rich Hedberg if I am killed in prison. I hope that they have a chance for me as my Mitch Hedberg.
And what sort of seafood would you go
with? Lobster. But at the same meal. Yeah, and the same. It's my last meal. What are they going to do? I'm not trying to keep my body svelte.
Yeah.
But I would also insist on a jumbo shrimp cocktail as well.
Yeah, so you could do Carlin's bit.
What's his bit?
It's a jumbo shrimp. A near miss.
Military intelligence.
Sigbot says, so glad to have y'all back. I guess I can't start the week without you. My last comment was last year, stating what an amazing talented wit Josh is. My comment was so amorous that Josh mistook me for a woman, LOL. I have to clarify that I'm a man. Love you, Josh. Hashtag no homo. That wasn't necessary.
Oh, that's no. You didn't put that in there.
Andy has always been one of my favorites, but now Josh is also amazing, once in a generation talent.
This is great. Which friend of yours wrote that and why? And they also do your
That's
Yelp
my
reviews.
friend Sigbot.
Who does your Yelp reviews?
Dan Wade Watt says, suspicious minds are talking. Is it funny? With his staying on the Randy Newman theme.
Is it funny?
No, the suspicious minds are talking part.
Oh, I see.
Dan Marsh.
It's combining a lot of different concepts.
Yeah. None of which we grasped.
Really? Well, you did. But
Hey guys, the average Thought Spiral listener knows one or both of you from your past work. But what would you say to someone who just stumbled onto the podcast by chance?
I would say,
nice meeting you. Sorry you had to leave.
I would say try and gut it out.
Yeah, I think if you listen to 60, 70 hours of us, we start to grow on you.
Right. But you have to gut it out, though. You have to gut it out those first things.
That's right. Delicious Mix says, my lovely girlfriend was defending fruit and nut chocolate last night, and as she was, I couldn't help but think this kind of sounds like how I defend Thought Spiral. No, believe me, it's really good, but you're not going to like it at first. However, if you just eat it for 2 hours a week, every week for 6 years straight, you'll acquire the taste, which is exactly what we were both saying. What's your favorite species of chocolate, boys? I'm a mint chalk kind of guy. Andy, unblock me. Tranquility and affection, gents.
Oh, should I unblock them?
It's Delicious Mick. We've covered this.
Oh, Delicious Mick. I like chocolate, but I have type 2 diabetes.
Oh, yeah.
He's got it.
I have the type 2 diabetes.
I like, your lovely girlfriend with the fruit and nut. The Cadbury fruit and nut is a strong candy bar.
It is not so strong.
It is. It is a strong candy bar.
You don't know what you're talking about.
It's like the British chunky bar in terms of how it tastes.
I have to leave, I think, in 3 minutes.
I don't care!
Get to the real important ones now.
Nice Firm Handshake says, just wanted to say that I heard Test Show 55 as I spiral through the backlog of unlistened episodes, and I think it's a real gem. Recorded on Josh's 47th birthday. Oh, my God.
Oh, God.
That sounds so long ago.
It's also sad that's what you were doing.
We hear him try to wrangle a particularly manic Andy with plenty of laughs along the way.
I hope so.
A classic example of a TS from times gone by. Thanks for all the spirals, fellas.
Oh, that's very nice. That is very nice.
Tommy Barcanero says, Josh and Andy, thank you for continuing to deliver funny and delightful episodes every Monday. What do you guys think of Chris Isaac? No. Want to fall in love.
I like that song a lot.
I saw Chris and his band perform a couple of weeks ago and thought they put on a great show. But as Josh said last week, musical preferences vary from person to person, so no worries if Chris is not your cup of tea. I like Chris Isaac.
I like him.
I worked on an award show with him once. He was not pleasant.
Okay. Oh, that's not good.
But that was a long time ago. People grow.
He's too handsome to be
People
present.
grow. He was right. He was right in the thick of his
Chris Isaacness.
His Chris Isaacness at the time. So, but I like his music in general.
You have 1 minute to wrap this baby up.
Perush says it's actually pronounced Chamala, like challah.
Oh.
Mazel tov, says Perush.
Cool.
Wampus Reynolds says, hey there, fellas with your hair colored yellow. I just finished a novel where one character observed to another that James Mason has at least one scene in a robe in all his pre-1965 movies.
Can I hang up for this one?
God damn, you're an asshole. Just let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
No, goodbye.
I'm not going to be some guy in row 9 going, boom.